Hello, we'll be talking about the finale of House of the Dragon, so Series 3, Episode 8. It was. Well, I was pretty happy with it, all things being told. Uh, Maybe one or two things to nitpick, but generally it was just a great episode. I really have enjoyed it so far. Yeah, I'm excited for Series 4 in, what, 2 years or something? I believe that's going to be the last series. It's going to be hard to cram the rest of the dance into the next series, but well, hopefully they can manage it without it feeling like the end of Game of Thrones, which felt very rushed. All right, I've quite liked the stuff in Harrenhal, um, just to give a chance to sort of give Aemon more grounded moments because, well, before that, we've just really seen him as the one-eyed maniac with Vagar. Um, but Vagar's left him, and Alice has, well, she revealed to him that she is likely a mistress or wife of Harren the Black. So Harren is was a member of House Hoare, and uh, basically they're from the Iron Islands, and they've managed to um, during the life of Harren, and they conquered out from the Iron Islands, and they have the Riverlands, so they're sort of bit of an empire going there, um, and they call themselves the Kingdom of the Isles and Rivers, and Harrenhal is the seat that the Harren decides to build for himself. So it is the largest castle in Westeros, and it was likely um, Harren had ambitions of conquering even further. Like he was like probing into the Stormlands. It's very likely that he wanted to become like a Westeros sort of spanning empire, and Harrenhal would have been his big seat. So obviously Harrenhal gets like completely leveled. Well, not leveled. It's still like a massive castle, but it gets like badly damaged by the Dragonfire, so it's not as defensible as it would have been. It's a bit run down and needs there's a lot of maintenance. It needs bringing back to uh, grandeur, but it's always put given to some like random like minor house that have sort of done something for the crown. It's like passed around. So right now it was in the hands of the Strongs. It was built to be the seat of like of an empire, so it can never really be properly maintained by these small houses. So that's why Harrenhal basically is the way it is. And it's a little haunted, and that's likely because Alice has made this some sort of pact with the Weirwood network, and yeah, this is she did this so she could hope. Well, she has access to sort of magic, to like to sort of potions, and she was hoping to save her child, but um she was unable to do so. But she's given herself longevity, and there must have been some kind of pact or curse which has meant she's had to remain within Harrenhal, or like the sort of boundaries of Harrenhal, um, like it and its wider like courtyard area. Oh, you do see her like you teleport around when she's talking to the dragon seeds. So maybe it's sort of like because they were near a weirwood, perhaps, or well, they were near the God's Eye. But yeah, she's unable to leave, and well, she's at least tied to the place, having to serve all these houses. So it was before believed that she was perhaps like a very sort of like a bastard of the Strong Dynasty, but like a, a few generations back, but that's clear that she's even older than that as a mistress or a wife of Harren. So that's what she tells Aemond, and Aemond's able to be vulnerable around Alice in a ways not been able to be around many people. There was that sort of like prostitute in King's Landing that he sort of had a surrogate mother thing going on. So yeah, there was that. But and his real mother's just poisoned him. So some bitter feelings there, perhaps, or sour feelings. Now, yeah, so that's that, and then we see Aegon come into King's Landing, like Aemon goes up, he sees Sunfire land, and Aegon approach. I'm just gonna play the scene. This is great stuff.
It cannot be. You are dead.
I'm alive! Imbecile!
Brother, I beg for your forgiveness.
Forgiveness!
I should split you in half.
Huh? I should have Sunfire burn you alive.
But slowly.
So yeah, Tom Glencairn doing great. I'm alive. I'm loving it. I'm loving it so much. Even more than that, like he seems to be, Ormond at this point was the only person I think was giving any direction to the Green faction. It really sounds like Aegon's like, okay, I came here to get vengeance on my brother, but he's sort of acquiescing to me, so I'm going to use him to sort of bind our faction back together, put me on top under my banner, and then they're going to go to King's Landing, and that's what he wants to do. Obviously, if we know how it ends for each character in the book, the brothers in the book remain separate until their subsequent fates, ever since Aegon left King's Landing. But that's no longer the case at this point, so I believe they're probably going to end the same way, but maybe there's going to be some interesting things going on in the period in between that. Like when he's like, we're going to get Daeron and that little shitty little Ormond in line. Like, oh, great stuff. Well, that's Harrenhal. I like what they've done with Sunfire. I don't believe Sunfire could actually fly in the books after what happened to him at Rook's Rest. Just gonna quickly... Actually, yeah, Sunfire could fly after Rook's Rest, but it took time for Sunfire to recover. Okay, now we're going to King's Landing. Quite like shocking after what we saw last time. You know how I would mention that there's like Masar, like sorry, Freudian slip. Rhaenyra makes this kind of Rhaenyra like confronts Mysaria about manipulating her, and then Mysaria seemingly manages to get back into her good graces, and they have a night together basically. But it appears Rhaenyra is cutting all ties. She's your treasury's limited, and then you've decided that part of it, part of what they've gotten from Lady Arryn, presumably, that she's just like, oh, I'm gonna give it to Massaria, so she can have a good life in exile in Essos. Like, you know, priorities. Priorities. I'm not saying not to give her anything. I'm just saying, like, maybe you can give her something after you've secured your rule. I mean, they really need a loan from the Iron Bank at this point. Say, we'll pay it back. We just need to get our treasury back and stuff, or whatever. Okay, so that's Massaria sort of sent out of the city, but she never actually gets out of the city because there's hullabaloo in the streets. So as that's going on, and her guards are distracted, she runs off into the crowd, and obviously she's got a lot of rapport with the common folk of King's Landing. She had this big sort of espionage empire in the bowels of King's Landing prior to the Dance of the Dragons. So maybe she's going to reform that. So Rhaenyra's got the news that King Aegon is back. Well, Aegon the Usurper. I'm Team Black. Even if I enjoy Tom Glencarney, like, I'm Team Black. So she comes and lets Daemon know that she breaks down in front of Daemon and is stressing about how this will appear, and Daemon's like, all that matters is strength, which there's a lot of truth to. So if you can secure strength, people will obviously bow down to that. If you got 6 dragons, it's like, all that matters is your strength. Why are you worried about this? The Usurper. Later, she decides she is going to get the ceremony of the High Septon. It's not gone well before. I'm thinking, your reign's secure enough. Try kill Aegon now, then deal with whatever of the High Septon. But that's not what she's doing. She's going straight to the High Septon. We do see in King's Landing a conversation between Alan and Adam. How Alan is sort of in lockstep with Rhaenyra at the moment, and Adam's a bit like, she's made some missteps. Maybe more people can try and like rein her in a bit. He points out that she's raised him up, so that's why he's not going to go against her, and then that Corlys' disappearance actually benefits Alan. I don't think it's entirely fair on Alan, because as we've seen from prior scenes, he does have a good degree of fondness for Corlys, in spite of the treatment Corlys gave him during his early years. So yeah, but they had that conversation, and then later they go to the Sept of Baelor, and Rhaenyra again tries to get the Septon to legitimize her, and then he calls her a princess. I love Emma Darcy's acting. She's just like, the man forgets I'm a queen. And then she sends in Alan to do the execution. I like the way she sort of she pushes him on, sort of whispers in his ear, "You're the blood of old Valyria. You answer to higher gods than them." So Alan actually does do it. Does like kill the guy, which is, the first questionable thing Alan's done. Obviously, his hand's been forced by Rhaenyra, and he doesn't seem at all happy about what he's been made to do. And then they go out, and then she has her sort of, yeah. I'm not like too big on I think if you're making a sort of medieval inspired fantasy show, you should probably make more medieval parallels. But I think they were kind of going for a bit of Mussolini here, where I think they should have gone for, say, more Philip the Fourth kind of parallels, because well, Philip the Fourth killed a pope, and I kind of see the High Septon as kind of like halfway between the Patriarch of Constantinople and the Pope, because the Patriarch of Constantinople is like fully subservient to the Emperor of the Byzantine Empire, like in Constantinople, where the Pope has his own sort of temporal state and his own power base, and is seen as sort of spiritually above kings and emperors, like in the Western tradition. But the High Septons is like sort of below, but they pick their own. They pick their own guys. Where in Constantinople, if an emperor wanted to pick another patriarch, they could do that in niche circumstances. But yeah, killing when you're already in a civil war, which is it other than like the battles, it's a contest for legitimacy. To kill the High Septons, like pretty gutsy. If the Targaryens had like a counter sort of religious institution for their Valyrian gods that had sort of built up over time, maybe that would have been a counterbalance. But no, like the Faith of Seven is followed by everyone, basically most people south of the Neck, on the mainland of Westeros. So unwise. I think I'd say that this is she didn't need to do this, but obviously, we've got to give the Greens a chance to get to the end point. So like, gotta have Rhaenyra mess up a couple times. It's unfortunate. It is unfortunate because episode 2 of the series, I think, is my favorite episode of House of the. Okay, there was Viserys' acting when he comes into the crown room, and that scene has stuck with me ever since. But one of my favorites is definitely episode 2 of the series, like when Daemon and Rhaenyra are just bossing it. I'm just like, yeah, it's my queen, my king consort. I was into that. Also getting slayed in front of the throne. It was a damn good episode, but unfortunate that things have not gone quite so well for the Blacks ever since. Right, let's get to Tumbleton, and this is the meat of the episode, I'd say. So you have Daemon. He flies to join his army on Caraxes, and you see Oscar Tully and Roderick Dustin sort of look up, and they're like, "Oh yes, here's our king consort. Here's our prince. He's arrived." They plan out their next move. The Stark forces, the Winter Wolves, these old Northmen that have been are basically self-selected. The Winter Wolves is a tradition in the North that every so often the old men will form a war band, and they'll go out, and if they'll fight the North's threats, and they will die, and that will free up resources for the North, because these are winters in the North are quite bad and they're scarce of food. So that's how this tradition started, basically. But yeah, the Winter Wolves are to attack frontally, and then the Tully forces will sort of wrap around to a rear gate of Tumbleton. And he's kind of like, Ormond's put children to man the walls because he's wanting to paint Rhaenyra as a butcher, or hopefully deter attack altogether. And then Damon's like, well, we don't want to be hurting too many civilians. We don't want to be killing too many of these kids, sort of thing. Alicent Black was kind of just like boring, and then and as we'll see later in the episode from Roderick Dustin, it's just gone in one ear and come out the other. Well, we'll get there. We see inside the walls of Tumbleton, and Daeron and Gawain have been discussing how this is a very grim wheeze of Ormond to be, taking the town's children and putting them on the wall for defense. This is these are the only two characters in the Greens that have any morality whatsoever, and they're having their discussion, and Daeron's kind of sniffed out that Ormond's got some other sort of piece on the board here, and he sees that he's flailing a little bit, that he's agitated, and in Ormond's way, like someone gets too close to him, he's got sort of his hands on the walls, and he's kind of like, and then someone gets too close to him, he's like, get away from me, that kind of thing. Later we see Gawain decide he's gonna take Corlys and use him as leverage while he tries to work out a peace deal, because Gawain's unaware of what Ormond's trump card here. So, Ormond hasn't communicated of Gawain and Daeron, which he probably should have done, because they're somewhat undermining him a bit here, and they're not confident in his plan at all, because he hasn't communicated with them. I actually felt like this was a flaw of Robb Stark in the Make Game of Thrones series, that he just wouldn't communicate his plans. And say if he communicated to Edmure Tully, then what happened with, in the show, the mountain escaping. In the books, Tywin's army actually escaping. They could have captured Tywin if they'd brought him in and let him cross, if Edmure had let him cross the river. And then it's always portrayed that Robb has had this great plan, and then Edmure's seen as incompetent because he couldn't read Robb's mind. But every time Edmure is in command, his troops tend to win. It's just that he wasn't informed of the plan, and then the greater victory was not had because of it. I think he's a good sort of on the field commander. It's just that Robb wasn't informing him about strategy, which is what Ormond's doing here with Gawain and Daeron. And throughout the battle, both Ormond and Daemon are looking for Ulf. Earlier scene, Ulf sort of in the pub, and this is I think this is a great scene from Tom Bennett. He's acting like some sort of high pantomime villain here, where he's talking about he'll humble Daemon, he won't use his dragon because his queen's put him on a leash. Then he puts on his helmet, which is really it reminds me of a Byzantine cavalryman's helmet. I like Ulf's helmet here. It's a flamboyant helmet. It's very showy. It's very noticeable, even when he's on his dragon. I quite like his helmet here. But throughout the battle, Ormond doesn't know where Ulf is. Daemon doesn't know where Ulf is. Daemon's kind of like, what do you mean you can't find him? He's got a very large dragon. Yeah, they just can't find him. So yeah, I'll leave that there for now. And then when the battle actually starts, the Winter Wolves grab a bunch of ladders. They've been picking themselves up for this charge. They know a lot of them will die here, but the Winter Wolves are kind of seeking death, and then because Roderick Dustin kind of has been talking with Damon, it's like Damon's like, open the gate, remember to open the gates, and it's like, open the gates first, and then you can die, and it's like, oh yeah, gates open, then die, yeah, okay. So, the Winter Wolves run up with ladders. They go over. They're on the walls of Tumbleton, and then we see Roderick like laying into the people at the wall. This this scene, I'm gonna play this scene. This is just like Roderick's completely forgotten what Damon said about keeping casualties to a minimum of civilians and kids, like that kind of thing.
Like the trenches!
I mean, what? Oh, the scene took me out of it. It's just like the show's like, oh yeah, we are that hard. We're just gonna kill a kid here. Like my brother's reaction, he was like, "What? What?" Like he could not believe it that I think someone in the Black Faction could just do that just off the cuff. But that was quite a menacing stick. So obviously, like the kid had to go, right? So it's just so jarring. I can't help but laugh at that scene. As terrible as it is, I just can't help but laugh. It's like it comes out of absolutely nowhere. I tell you, who did deserve that fate. It's Ollie from the original Game of Thrones series. I mean, Jon Snow gave him his just desserts, but Tumbleton Extra number 4 did not deserve that fate. Yeah, so that happens, and later we see the Winter Wolves have hewed their way in. They've opened the gate, and then they sort of look around. They say to each other, "We've opened the gate. We've killed everyone here, but we're not dead yet." Oh, and then Roderick sends his men like, "Go find the prince. I'm gonna kill Lord Hightower." So we'll get back to that later. We see Damon on the other side, like the south side. He's like, as the Tullys have gone around to the far side, he's, as he said, he's holding the center, and he's punched through another gate with Caraxes, and his men have poured in. It's a great scene when Damon's like sitting on his horse, and he's like, Caraxes, and then Caraxes comes, just burns, and first like a whole like group of children come out to like guard the gate, and then Damon manages to say like, get out of the way, and then like 2 of them stay. It's like, this is a battle, things need to happen. So like flames of the 2 that have remained, and then the gates, maybe they just got out of the way, but maybe not. So Caraxes punches through the gate, and Damon rides in of his horse. He's first through the breach. His horse is stopped by pikes, and then he starts like cutting his way through with his men. Eventually, he meets John Roxton, and John Roxton as well has a Valyrian sword. Like Damon has Dark Sister, and John Roxton has Orphan Maker, and they battle it out. I mean, Orphan Maker is this large 2-handed Valyrian sword, and Roxton obviously knows what he's doing, and really, he's the first opponent that's really given Damon a run for his money. And as we see later, it probably would have been the death of Damon if part of the city didn't fall down on him, on like separating them. thanks to Ulf and his betrayal, because eventually Ulf is found by Ormond, and he's on the toilet, and then Ormond completely breaks the niceties he's been showing. He's been showing Ulf, like a mix of the horrible stuff. He's just he's annoyed that throughout the battle, like they're starting to lose, and he's just been exasperated about his piece on the board not showing up. So he's like really angry at Ulf, and he just starts pushes him on the ground and kicks him about. Like, you baseboard! Like, how dare you? Just like all you had to do was sit on your fucking dragon, and then so Ulf kind of looks at him like with this look like, okay, I'm gonna go to my dragon now, but your head might be on the chopping block here. Like, he looks at him with a sort of look. You're like, okay, yeah, Ulf might be done with Ormond here. And Ulf goes to his dragon. He's got 2 high tower guards. The guy that Daemon sent to look for him just runs up to Ulf and tries to talk to him, but then the other guy just gets him. And Ulf goes in Silverwing, and you see Daemon's army like, yeah, like as Ulf's flying up, but then Ulf turns around and you're like, oh, here we go, and then he just starts flaming the army. It's quite like they do this quite well, because you do see the men start to like split apart and run away. Like they act very much like an army's never been flamed by dragon fire, but this is how they'd probably react if they did. Like, you see them running apart. And Corlys, who was brought by Gwaine after the failed peace talks, is sort of sees this happening, and then he hides behind a building, and he manages to not get flamed. And then Ulf's just been riding around, and then he sees the aftermath of this scene.
That's a proper fucking by the nose.
Fuck you too.
Which it's hilarious. It's like if Ormond Hightower wrote down like the one way he didn't want to die, this would be it. Like the indignity, it's viscera, there's dragonfire, it's horrible. We see from their little scrap that Ormond is a good fighter. He would have likely been able to get the upper hand on Roderick Dustin had he not been so squeamish as he tried to claim Rhaenyra was of like viscera and the smells and horrors of metal. So he gets, after he literally disarms Roderick Dustin, and then Roderick bleeds on him from his stump. Ormond is like, "Whoa," and he's about to puke, and that's when Dustin manages to get like the upper hand on him, and then gives him an unpleasant surprise. So, yeah, he comes up, he sees somehow from all the way up there on Salt Rowing, he sees Ormond, and then he's like, "F you too," and then starts burning. Not just Ormond and Roderick, but he just starts like burning like big swaths of Tumbleton, and that's when later the sort of bricks fall and split up Daemon and Sir Roxton. Corlys, who has like gone out of his chains by this point and has found Daemon, who is he's a bit shell shocked from the battle. He's covered in dust, and he's trying to just like killing every Hightower man he sees. He sort of was about to strike Corlys because he sort of grabs him, and then Corlys is like, "Hey, we need to get out of here." Like, Ulf's turn, the battle is lost. So that's what he does. He sort of runs away with Corlys, and then the full extent of the battle's been seen. It's been a very Pyrrhic victory for the Greens. Like, they've technically won. They've held Tumbleton, they've held the city, but Ulf's shown himself not to be a green asset. He's kind of gone his own way with the deal, which is a little bit mad considering that Ormond did offer him Driftmark, and that's highly likely to be off the table now that Ormond's dead. But yeah, we do see Roxton find Ormond like burnt up, and Roxton's obviously quite cut up about this. It looks quite sad, and then some masonry had fallen around and on like Gwaine Hightower as well, and he's sort of getting up and he's coughing because he's covered in dust, and then he sort of shouts out for Daeron, but he doesn't find Daeron. And as we see earlier in the episode, it was mentioned that Roderick had sent his winter wolves to find the prince. So I'm guessing it's something to do with the winter wolves, but I'm like 90% sure because of book events that Daeron's not dead. If you know the book, he's given kind of an ambiguous death. But it's the second battle of Tumbleton that happens, not the first. So he's likely not dead here, highly likely not dead. So we'll see what happens with Daeron later. One scene out that happens at the very end, and we're back in King's Landing, is Helaena, after Rhaenyra's treated her horribly. She's like force fed her food because she's not eating. Like, jumps out the window and beats her book ending. Only that, like, she's pregnant with what would have probably been Prince Maelor, who is a character that sort of dies in the book with a knight. One of the King's Guard is kind of protecting him, but they get set upon and then they die. So he just dies in the womb in the show, and yeah, Helaena jumps out and we see like she's got a spike like from underneath the window like through her neck. So it's an unfortunate end for one of the purest characters in the show, and you will be missed, Helaena. You didn't deserve that fate, but yeah. So yeah, that's the finale. I've really enjoyed it. I feel like there's some things that are a bit interesting. Like Ulf's decision making here. I mean, he is a bit drunk. It has been like what, like, you're gonna. I get turning against the blacks, but then just because Ormond treated you terribly, you're gonna kill him as well. He's offering you Driftmark, which, whatever. We'll see how this plays out. I did also forget to mention that Hugh Hammer, all this time, like, Vermithor was seen, like, sitting outside of Tumbleton, and everyone's wondering why Vermithor is here. And Hugh Hammer has gone in to Tumbleton and has found his wife, Kat, dead, which is, deeply unfortunate. I think that's going to be the catalyst that will turn him against Team Black, because they, in his eyes, recklessly started this battle without making sure his wife was okay. So, yeah. I mean, we saw his wife refuse to go out earlier, but she was looking out for her family, and she was quite embittered by Hugh Hammer's absence. But yeah, this isn't gonna affect Hugh very well, I believe. And at the end, when we see, like, Caraxes sort of chase Silverwing off away and sort of trying to flame them, Vermithor's kind of like flying behind Caraxes. I think it's kind of like a, hey, don't burn my missus, because we see that Vermithor and Silverwing are very close because they used to belong to King Jaehaerys and his wife, so they were strongly bonded dragons that flew around Westeros together quite frequently. So, wherever Silverwing goes, I think Vermithor will too. And that might also be another catalyst in Hugh Hammer's decision making. So yeah, that's the end of Series 3. I'm excited. I was excited to watch every week, which is something I hadn't felt since, I don't know, like Series 5 or 6 of Game of Thrones. Like, I enjoyed Series 1, like, quite a bit, and I got a bit of that back, but I didn't really feel that much for Series 2. Maybe just because of slow pacing. And maybe I was quite busy around that time, so I just didn't feel the same way about it, but I felt very positively about Series 3, even if there's some things that would be a bit like, like, I know the showrunners have not respected certain book decisions of George R. R. Martin, and they haven't really been listening to him, and yeah, like, I understand the frustration, especially since Duncan Egg's just gone, like, a Night of the Seven Kingdoms show that is gone. It's been absolutely amazing, and the showrunner's just been near lockstep with George R. R. Martin. So, you know, it, the current showrunner just throws up budgeting issues, even though they've been a little. They've obviously made decisions of, I don't know, some pointless dragon scenes, and there's been some scenes that you didn't need to use that much budget on the scene, and it's kind of a lame excuse of why you're not doing George R. R. Martin's bidding, but oh well. I've enjoyed Series 3 a lot more than Series 2, to be fair, so I'm still going to watch Series 4. It's been an excellent series, and yeah. Thanks for watching. Also forgot to mention Joffrey. Joffrey hasn't had any lines yet, but he got more screen time this episode. So he's the third of Rhaenyra's strong children, the children she had of Harwin. And he's sort of like being like the presence behind her, like following her around as she's making her mad speeches about this prophecy that she was told to keep under wraps, and killing High Septon. So, he's like looking around himself. He seems a little disillusioned with what's going on. It's hard to. He hasn't said anything, so we don't know his thoughts. But you know, he's there for his mother's downward spiral. So yeah, if you know his fate's in the book, it's quite a sad fate. Like he's trying to take action. But it's interesting. We haven't actually seen his dragon yet, and he does have a dragon that's just able to fly and carry him in the books. But that dragon is killed like prior to the gullet in the books, or just around the time of the gullet. He sort of comes back and warns the Blacks about the Triarchy fleet, and his dragon is filled with arrows and just manages to get him back to Dragonstone before dying, but it has not died in the show, and it's been mentioned a few times by Lady Arryn. The dragon's like too small to basically be even called a dragon. It's like it's not what she was expecting when she said she wants a dragon to guard the Vale, but that was the original one sent with Joffrey. But presumably that dragon has come with Joffrey to King's Landing, and that was mentioned by Lady Arryn. So, but maybe Tyraxes, which is the name of Joffrey's dragon, will be getting another role in King's Landing, because we do see in the books it was quite vital that he did not have Tyraxes, and his last act is to his last act is one of initiative in the book. Like he sees a problem unfolding and he tries to solve it, but things don't go well for him, and that's all I'll say. If you know what happens to him in George R. R. Martin's work, then you know what happens to him. But that's the fate of Joffrey. Thanks for watching, everyone. I appreciate it.